shows the Flyers fall in overtime. Overtime is getting to be no fun when it comes to this Flyers team. Yeah, they pick up a point, Bry, and they get it with the goaltender pulled on a really nice play. Kevin Hayes to Tony DeAngelo, who wires the shot. But overtime, you get great opportunity at one end and then it goes down the other end and it ends up in the back of your net. It'll drive you crazy.
It sounded great. This is one of those streaming games here tonight, and I still haven't seen the goal yet because of how well that's working. But it was again just an opportunistic thing for the Flyers to be able to jump in and get that late. And like Timmy said, it's a road game. They've gone down in the third, and it's easy to fold the tents. But this team continuing to show some of the things that keep it just keep it moving along, just keep it growing, and eventually these things are going to start to fall their way a little bit, in terms of how the overtimes kind of shake their way out. But they've just been on the wrong side of it here the last couple of games, and they'll just keep moving forward and try to duplicate a lot of what they did tonight in Winnipeg on Saturday.
Yeah, and get to this break and unplug. Kind of get away from everything. Don't think about it. You got a stretch run to come back to, and you want to finish the season with good, meaningful hockey and progression. And, you're going to have to just unplug for a bit and get away because the season will grind you down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these are the dog days, right? And, it's everybody, a lot of folks, when you're not in it every day, you don't think of a hockey game as being work or anything like that. But, these, I don't know, 6 weeks, I guess, if you will, between roughly mid-January and the trade deadline there. And that's why the players negotiated this week off into the schedule, just to get exactly what you're talking about, unplug and get away, because you get through the first half of the season, and once you get into this stretch here where it's leading up to the trade deadline, there's a ton of games and not too many days. You're playing frequently 6 and 8 and things like that, and the novelty from the start of the season has worn off, and you're just trying to be plugging along until you get to the games that start to have some bearing on the playoff situation. Because right now it's you're out there and you're battling, but you're still not in this stretch yet where you can tell how much a game means. And so these are definitely the dog days of the season here through late January and into February. So they're just trying to get to that break and again just keep the level of play up and try to get some of these bounces going their way.
Yeah, and look, it is the dog days of the season. This team's battling back and getting the game tied, getting it to overtime, and picking up. When you're in a playoff race, picking up a point like this, or picking up a point like they picked up the other night in the LA Kings game, it will be a good thing. I'm not a big fan of the, as I call it, the loser point, but when you need them in a season, when you are making a legitimate playoff push or you're trying to improve your seeding, it can be a powerful point to grab in the standings. All said and done, Flyers outshoot Minnesota in the game 30-23, face-offs 29-23 in favor of the Wild. Each team with 19 hits aside and how about 28 penalty minutes aside. Wow.
Yeah. We didn't get a chance to talk about it in the second intermission, but looking back at some of the numbers, the 4 fights in a game since almost exactly 8 years. January 20th of 2015 was the last time this happened. And believe it or not, it was against Pittsburgh. And believe it or not, Zach Ronaldo was involved. And, Steve Downey was also involved. So
shocking.
There was, but Downey was on Pittsburgh in this particular time. But this game was such that even Pierre-Edouard Bellemare got in a fight.
Wow.
Which doesn't happen very often. So, but January 20th, 2015, last time the Flyers had 4 fights in a game. So, it certainly is not something you see a whole lot anymore. The Flyers certainly created a history of it back in the 70s and stuff like that. So it's still to me just the most random thing. I don't know if these guys ran into each other at the bar last night or something. Like it just out of nowhere, it feels like that this popped up. So, they're going to get together again in Philadelphia, I think in March sometime. And we'll be looking forward to seeing how that all plays out.
Yeah, it's almost like they ransacked the Flyers hotel last night or
It's
something like
bizarre. It
Pee Wee
just really
tournament.
is. It's Anchorman. I think it's
Yeah,
that's
no doubt. We hope it doesn't come at a
uh,
cost, though. Wade Allison did play after his scrap. That lower body injury did not return after getting back out there. Zach McEwen, though, after his upper body injury, did not return to the game either. So we'll have to wait further word on those two players. And I mean, when it comes to Wade Allison, I mean, we're just talking about it, getting to a rhythm and being healthy. And we hope this isn't anything significant.
and sometimes, but month, they've been able to start the game with the same exact pairings, the same exact lines for 17 straight games. That in and of itself means they've gone that amount of time without any injuries, which is almost unheard of for this team in the last couple of years.
Just when you consider the beginning of this season.
Yeah, when you get to a point where you're able to do that, it's because it's not just because they're going well, it's because everybody's healthy.
Yeah,
Everybody's got to miss any time. So, it is interesting that this comes up now, just from the standpoint of Kiefer Bellows was called up back during the right before the holiday break, I think, or right after it. And when you're called, when you're sent down, like Kiefer was, you don't have to clear waivers again for 30 days, and that 30 days is coming up here.
yep.
So
He was, I think, recalled on the 31st.
yeah, he was recalled, and I guess I just don't remember when he was sent down. That's when the trigger was.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a guy who hadn't played for a month, and if you wanted to get him down to Lehigh Valley to get some minutes, you'd have to do it here sooner. He's gonna have to clear waivers again. But it looks like right now the Flyers might need him on the NHL roster, depending on how some of this shakes out.
Yeah, may need him Saturday, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's take our time out here on the post-game show. Flyers fall 3-2 against Minnesota in overtime. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, Flyers post-game show on the Flyers Broadcast Network. And we are back live. It is the post-game show. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. Flyers fall against the Minnesota Wild. Final score of 3-2. Noah Cates picks up the Flyers' first goal of this game, opening the scoring from Rasmus Ristolainen. And it was the Matt Boldy show for a couple. He picked up his 15th and 16th, second on the power play. And then Tony DeAngelo with the goaltender pulled gets the goal. And then Matt Zuccarello in overtime, his 19th of the season. That's the game winner, 3-2 Minnesota. And we'll see them again, like Bry said, in March. One more game here coming up on Saturday in Winnipeg. Is that game a 7:00 game, or are we getting a different time?
It's a 7:00 game here. Yes, I have no idea what time it starts out there, but it's 7:00 game here.
Okay, so Flyers and Winnipeg. We just saw Winnipeg last weekend, as a matter of fact. Good team, and the Flyers look to head into this break with a win, feeling a little good about themselves. But they picked up a couple of points in these last couple of games, LA and this one. But there's nothing like the feeling of a win, even though you pick up a point, but you lose in overtime. It doesn't feel much like a win as a competitor.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's interesting how you look at it these days. And Charlie O'Connell from Charlie O'Connor from the Athletic actually asked that question the other day to somebody. 20 years ago, some of these games would have just ended as a tie, and you look at it from that standpoint, and you would probably take it under certain circumstances that just don't feel the same here. Like this is another circumstance where you play this Minnesota team like this to a tie, and you get that extra point in the last minute or so, you leave feeling pretty good. But because of the way the game has been built to get rid of ties and make sure there's a winner every night, it doesn't feel good. And it's part of the overall phenomenon that's always, to me, kind of been a little bit interesting. That just talking hockey, it happens in other sports too. But you go to the Winter Olympics, and the silver medalists in hockey are probably the least happy silver medalists in the entire event because that's just the way it is. They got a medal because they look at it because they got a medal because they lost. Whereas all these other all the other individual sports, whatever, you get silver medal, it's your best accomplishment of your career. So it's just part of the culture, part of the fabric of the sport, and again, in a season where you're looking at trying to get to a certain point playoff wise or anything like that, these points that you lose, they can certainly add up and they can hurt you. Flyers probably aren't going to be in that position this year, but it doesn't make anybody any happier to come away with one fewer goal than the opposition, no matter how that goal was accomplished.
Yeah, I imagine some guys that win a bronze medal probably feel better about it because they won a game to get it.
Yeah,
you lose a game,
you win your last game, right?
It doesn't feel like a consolation like a silver medal would.
You're happy and everybody's great, and you get your medal and you go home, and then you see these World Juniors where some of these other countries got silver medals, and you got kids throwing them in the stands and stuff like that. I just sometimes it just kind of makes you think. I actually asked Braden Shen about it once before this actually ever kind of settled in my head that that it was that kind of situation. I asked him about winning a silver medal at World Juniors. He's like, "Really? No, that's terrible." I'm like, "Really? It's a silver medal?" And then
you're Canadian kid. That's terrible.
So it's kind of odd that way sometimes.
Yeah, fate worse than death for a Canadian kid. Win a gold at World Juniors.
Right.
All right, let's wrap things up. Let's get everybody out of here. We'll start with Mike Vito, our in-studio engineer. Mike, who was on the highlights tonight? Ray Dunn on highlights tonight. For Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, for Brian Smith, I'm Jason Martinez. You've been listening to Philadelphia Flyers Hockey, a 3-2 overtime loss against the Minnesota Wild on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Good night, everybody.